Hello.
Hello. It's so good to be here. I mean, welcome to the world of hexagons and obsessions and excitement and all those good things. CadyJax, bless their hearts, Caitlin and Jackie will be podcasting after this, so maybe you'll see me then. You may see me before you see this. I don't know, but either way, welcome all of you that are coming from CadyJax. I really appreciate all those knitters and makers, and it's just an exciting community. Anyway, I have my very first special guest on a podcast. I think this is I don't even keep track. I haven't done a podcast for, is it 2 years or something? Is it longer than that?
Probably.
Anyway, so I have a special guest who can introduce herself. I think you already know her.
Yeah, I'm Lili. I'm sometimes on the CadyJax podcast with Sally and Jackie and Caitlin. And I'm here today to talk about hexagons with Sally.
Thank you. And because Lili has been, she has a bedroom that has to go right through the hexagon land every time she comes through. So she is actually the one who named this whole project, didn't you?
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, I was putting hexagons. Oh, I started in December and I started putting them. This is my design wall back here. And I started putting them on the wall, and they grew and they grew and they grew. And I've told, I mean, many of you are familiar with this story. These are a result of, well, they're a result of being locked up with my family and the pandemic and all that's going on in the world, and finding something that really I could sink my teeth in, really get excited about it. And this project came on the heels of finishing the quilt I made for Lili out of our mask material, our mask leftovers. And I made her, you can see that in my Instagram stories. I have the whole story of her quilt. It was, yeah, it was a joy. It was a joy to make. And I finished that right around election, 1st of November, right around there. And then I was, we were all in anxiety over that time. I mean, it was like, the pandemic, the whole world, the political, everything was just had us in, I was in knots constantly. But anyway, it turned out good results as far as we're concerned, and I think for the world. And as a process, I decided to go back into I needed to find a project. And I know you knitters are going to say, well, where's all those things you said you were going to knit? And it's true.
It happens.
It happens. And I have to say, I love knitting. I love making things. I put a sweater on that I made, super simple summer sweater by Hohi. And, I love it. I'm not going to go into details here because this is a quilting podcast. But yes, I decided I should wear it because it's a nice background for all of these colorful quilts. But anyway, when it comes to something that really takes my joy and my heart and my spirit, it's fabric. And I needed a project. And so I went into my bins and bins and bins of fabric and thought, well, it's right around the end of November I was doing this, and it was time to think about Christmas. And I usually make some kind of Christmas ornament for the family. And I wasn't sure what I was going to make, but, I've done things, a lot of them have story. They're, I won't go into detail on those. It's in my feed, you say. Lili's my media consult when I misspeak on terms, and I appreciate it a great deal, believe me. But anyway, in my feed, I have stories about the Christmas ornaments. And, Instagram is a great place when you are getting my age and you have stories that you want to share because you guys don't have any choice in it. You can you can decide to read it or not read it. But anyway, I had decided to make Christmas ornaments, so I pulled out a bag I had gotten from an Etsy shop in after I finished the Grandma Johnson quilts, I was in love with the vintage fabrics I'd been using for hers from her 30s era Dresden plate quilt. And so I went into Etsy, I think trying to satisfy that urge to continue working with those fabrics. And I found a quilt that I ordered that was beautiful, and I was going to cut it up into little trees, and then I'm like, oh my God, no, this is perfect. I'm not going to take a perfect quilt of somebody I don't even know who they are and cut it up just for my own gratification. So no, I left that, thank goodness, because Jackie just loves that quilt, and used it in her summer, bed.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I ordered there was like this little treasure thing of a bag of 1940s hexagon squares. And I think it was only $18,
On
it was
Etsy?
on Etsy. It was reasonable. It was like, oh, okay, I'll get that. Well, when it came, all kinds of things happened in life, as you know how that goes. There was just upheaval. I mean, it was a time when you were moving in. There was, all kinds of stuff happening in our life. And my leisure time to just sit and sew was not, I didn't have it right then, which was fine. But the time came, and I found these. I just fell in love again with this. Like, I recognized that this woman had, I think at one point, I'm looking at them. I have a picture of it someplace in my feed too, but this is the little cardboard template that she used to cut out all these little hexagons. And there were, in that bag that I had, there were, hundreds of them, but I didn't know that at the time. I was just gonna make Christmas ornaments. I thought, oh, how cute. I'll just take a cute little fabric, I'll put just rough edge and applique down a hexie, I'll back it with something pretty and, bind it, and we'll have these little squares and we'll hang them on the Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're kind of big. They're pretty for that, but I already have, I'd used my mother's fabric and made little log cabins, and I'd used my husband's and made little puff wreaths. And so, I really didn't need another series of these kind of things. But I had gotten about 20 of them done, laid them on that white table, which we affectionately refer to as the coffee shop table. And you could see them and see the tree in the background, and it was just this beautiful. And the family, I'm like, you came down, Jackie came down, they're all going like, what are you planning to do with these, Mom? Was always Jackie's way of saying, well, what in the world are you doing? But she thought they were beautiful. And then I started looking at it and I thought, wow, these really could be worked into something. I don't know what, but they could be. It gave me permission, like all of a sudden, like, oh, I think I'm going to work up a few more of these. I'm not going to put them on the Christmas tree. I sold a few quilts right around the Christmas season, and I threw in the very first one with a woman who had bought 6 quilts, and I thought, my gosh, she's just a dear, and I want to do something extra and nice for her. So I put number 1 went in that package with her. Number 2 went to a dear friend as a Christmas ornament or something to hang, because she has a beautiful eclectic aesthetic, and I just thought she'll know what to do with this. And we were giving her, that was Lisa, and we were giving her all kinds of packages to open, and so a hexie in a little package seemed perfect.
Yeah.
So that was number 2. And then I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, but number 3 and number 4, this was all before this whole thing hatched. Number 3 and number 4, which I don't think have numbers on them. I guess what I'm getting to is every single one of these squares has a number on the back of it.
Now it does.
Now it does, but at that time they didn't. And number 3 and number 4 I sent off as part of a package to someone that I think is just awesome. And it's just, the mail is taking forever. And so I'm not going to say anything further. But anyway, so number 3 and 4 went off. If I tell you the country, it'll give it away, so I'm not going to. Anyway, needless to say, it's taking a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so that was 3 and 4. And then suddenly I'm starting to look at these and I'm going like, wow, that's when the wall started really
Started filling.
Mhm.
Like probably 2 times as much as you're seeing here.
Well, it filled it was something like 15 by 14 or what it was. Well, it was a total of about 306. It would have been minus those 4, it would have been 302. And they don't even fit up there. So,
floor
but it
to
was
ceiling.
floor to ceiling. It was just awesome. I have pictures of it. I mean, and I would be posting stories about it. I've talked about it on CadyJax, and people would say, well, what are you planning to do with those? And, I just said, they're like Legos. I don't know what I plan to do with them, but I just know that I'm having so much fun, and I have just been taken away down this, like, every single one of them is different. She had, I don't know, because I hand stitched everything is hand stitched in this project other than sewing on the binding by machine, and then I tack it down by hand. But so there's a lot of time to be thinking about this this is what came to me, is this mysterious 1940s quilter who was cutting out these hexagons during a time, as I said before, when the war was going on in Europe and we were getting into it, and there was we're just coming out of the Depression, so the economy was crazy. The stories of that era were what I grew up on, sitting around the kitchen table with my grandmother and my mother and the other women in the family, and talked about putting up food and having to ration. You only got so much butter, and you only did, and so the community shared, and my brother was a baby at that time. My father was in the war, and my brother they would share their ration cards in the community so that Bruce could keep getting shoes, because as a baby he kept growing, whereas an adult you could have a ration for a pair of shoes and it would last you. You wouldn't need any more. Other than it would be really hard but it was a community of sharing and giving. And that was when this woman was cutting out all these hexagons. And so I was thinking of her, and then I was thinking about, she stopped this project. This project ended up in an estate sale, probably. This project didn't get completed. She worked so hard, and she dreamed of making this quilt. It was probably going to be a grandmother's flower garden quilt. Those were very popular at that time. It was probably going to be the English paper piecing method, because I think there were some papers in this. Anyway, so I was just struck with her. So she's kind of it was so much like what we were, we were in our own era going through many of the same kind of things, other than we have instant knowledge about what's going on all over the place. They didn't. They had to wait for letters, and they saw what was going on overseas in the newsreels. There was a lot of delay. So, but anyway, so that woman, I just felt this urge to collaborate with her. And what I want to get to before I go, too far off field, is that the community is the reason why I put a number on each square. It wasn't just so that at the end of it I would know that there's 444 squares, and that made it convenient for me. But it was also, as I have started putting these quilts together in different configurations and sending them off, and you have been just wowing me with the response. Right? It's just been incredible, and I am so grateful for that. I'd still be doing it, but it feels good to be, having people sharing, because that's what this project is about, is getting, they're going all over the world. They're going all over the country. They're just like,
And about the time that you were figuring out, what am I going to do with these? and the wall was filling is when I would walk through and I stopped and I said, those look like the faces of little souls. Each one is so different. They all look like, and that's exactly how souls are, is everyone is their own, but they all like share little pieces of each other, but they're all uniquely individual. And so that also is probably why they're numbered too.
Right.
Is
to give them some individuality, that this is, who they are. Yeah. No, it's just been, and so, I was able to, and it's funny because at first I got to 306. That was as you quilters will understand, that was the logical stopping point because I ran out of batting. And I couldn't just, I have been shuttered in the house. I mean, Jamie has been very protective and very sweet, and but I wasn't allowed to go. I mean, I didn't choose to, because believe me, this has been, for someone who is 71, this pandemic has been scary, because you see the way people are dying and families not with them, and it wasn't what I wanted to have happen. Not only for me, but I didn't want to have my family go through that. So I was willing to make all those, I'm an introvert, I like to work, but the Hexies helped me not feel edgy and not feel confined to the house, that I could come up here and sew. The Hexies are so much hand sewing that I could be with all of you knitters and, be around, and it just was doable, and it was a
like something to fall into.
Right, and between that and the half and half triangle wrap that I have to plug again, because what is it, Jackie's on her third one, I'm still plugging away on my first one, and it does help in between when I can't do this. But at 306 I thought, it's probably enough. I ran out of, maybe that's my sign from heaven, I have run out of batting and I can't go to the store, and so then it's time. Well, I can't remember whether it was you or Joe or one of you.
It was both of us.
It was both of you saying, looking at my little basket full of hexagons and going, well, you should do all of them.
There's all the leftovers.
Yeah.
And we're like, you should just finish it through.
Yeah.
Do all of them.
Yeah. And so, whoa, the gauntlet was dropped. Yes. And I thought, yikes. So I ordered some batting. I was disappointed because I haven't been able to find the batting that I wanted, and so, I had to use something different, but I made do, and it worked just fine if I doubled it. So, I look forward to when I can go out and actually find the batting I like, because it's all by feel. I can't seem to be able to find it online. I'm going to have to just go touch it and feel it and know. Mm-hmm. What I used to use, they don't seem to make anymore. I don't know. But anyway, that's an aside. So, and I've just lost my train of thought on
You got your batting.
I got my batting. Okay, I got the batting, and I started on the Jerney again.
The last, 140
Yeah. Well, I added them up because I decided to know, what goal am I running into? What is this? How many, I just kept picking them up and working, and I kept going it doesn't feel like I'm putting a dent in here. And, still it's fun. I mean, I have, I don't know if Lili wants to.
Oh, your bucket?
Just kind of, this is only one bucket, but this is
beautiful.
Leftovers from the,
And it's deep.
Yes, it is. It's like the edges of, this is just kind of a concept of what it looks like as a scrap bin when there's the fabric that I cut away from the, when I make it a square, and these are all 4.5-inch squares, and then there's the fabric at the end of a strip of binding that isn't big enough to use again. Yeah, there's tons of those. So I won't make you sit with that, but that's kind of what I've got a lot of leftovers. But anyway, so I managed to, I counted them up, and there were going to be a total of 444 usable hexagons. There were a couple of them that were really so browned with age, and so not very many, but a few of them that I tossed those because I thought she wouldn't want me to use those because they weren't pretty anymore. And so, let's not get crazy about it. So anyway, so I I was left with 444, and then you said,
I said something like, that seems very spiritual,
Mhm.
but you should stop at 444. And that's like exactly where it naturally came to a stop because of the ones that didn't work out.
mm-hmm. And it's beautiful. It's like, you can look it up, but and I will at some point write that in one of my stories, what the number 444 in the angel spirit kind of, it's like you're on the right path, you have confidence, it's kind of like you've picked the right path for yourself and you're taken care of. That's just the jigsaw. But it was like, whoa, okay,
I'll take that.
This is my right path. Yes. So I ran out again of batting. I went through another batting and didn't get to the end, so I had to order more. But at that point, I thought, well, I'm just going to keep going. And so the challenge was, as I was doing this, I put the first 306 minus the 4 that went first. I decided that all of you, I wanted to share this with the world. I wanted to get this process, because we're all coming out of the same experience. We all went through it differently, and we had, some people had tragic tales in this, and some people, we had each other. I wasn't a grandma left without any grandchildren. I mean, when the quarantine went into effect, I not only had the people that lived here, but I had my oldest grandson had to move back from college. So, we had a house full. We had all the Zoom classes. Lili does her UW classes up on the 3rd floor, and we had Jackie off teaching in the 3rd grade, and we had Joe in his place doing his West High junior year, and Jamie was down doing the holding it all together in the I never quite know what the title of her job is, but she's in administration in the Doyle
district.
Yeah, in the district. So it's PBIS. She uses initials all the time, and I'm always going like, what does that mean? But anyway, it's the feel-good stuff. She's trying to make everybody be the human. Think of the children as the humans and the teachers, and let's see how we can get through this. So anyway, I hear that all day long.
Yeah, Jamie and Jackie are really good about social emotional learning.
Right. And so it's delightful. I mean, I've been absorbing all this teaching because I can hear the 3rd grade and their delightful little voices while they're, doing their math problems and stuff. And then she's turned off her colleagues, but I hear her side of the conversation. So anyway, and Lily's fairly quiet. I hear her professors every once in a while in their lectures, so this gave me purpose. I mean, I could do this while everybody else was doing that, and it wasn't just cooking and cleaning and all that. So the pandemic has really brought about this closeness. I don't know, it's been a shared experience with, the world became smaller during this time. And I'm very proud of much of what we as a people have done. There's no point in focusing on a few not so pleasant things that are happening, but for the most part, it's been really coming together like those women did around the table, and the sharing the ration books, and is to really help each other. And so this project is going out there. I'm hoping, somebody responded to me when she got her Hexie quilt that this is going to be something that really means a lot to her, because she was a frontline worker, and this will be something to remind her of that time, which has its, it's going to be some hard memories and such gratitude we have to the people that actually were out on the front lines of this pandemic. So anyway, we are grateful. In our house, everybody has their vaccines completed except for the youngest teenager, and he has 1 dose in a week, and then he will be complete. Yay! So I wish that to all of you. Get your vaccine. It should be coming soon if you haven't already gotten it. So there's this sense of relief and joy. That's what is in the 306 to 440, I think. is I'm noticing it in the knitting world, I'm noticing it in the quilting world, I'm noticing it in the world in general. We can look out the window here and the trees, the flowering crabs budding, all the flowering trees, the magnolias are blossoming. What's happening is we're all like, oh my God, let's burst out of here and,
In spring.
And spring. It's very exciting. So the colors changed a lot in this, I don't know, in this last 138, I think it is. And there's more yellow, there's more, there's a little bit more pink, a little bit brighter palette,
Vibrant.
Yeah, I dug into, because I had used up so much fabric. It's kind of interesting to think about. I wrote a few things down here that I wanted to share with you.
Some fun facts.
So these are 4.5-inch squares. There's 444 of them. So that was roughly 21 by 21 squares would be 441 squares. So 20, so if you can imagine, it works out to be something like a 94.5-inch square, a little bit bigger than that. If you had them all, and we all know how big a king size quilt is, this is bigger than that. It's 1,776 mitered corners. And I think that's the big difference. The mitered corner.
This?
Yes. Because on a big quilt, like if I had made a 94.5 by 94.5 quilt, when I bound it, there'd be a lot of straight stitches, but there'd only be 4 mitered corners on that quilt.
Mm-hmm.
And this one has a humongous amount of them. There is 8,436 inches of binding, or 75 feet of binding on these squares. So that's a lot. I was going to look up more fun facts, but I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know how many stitches there are because that's
They're
a little
individual.
And that's a little harder to, I started embellishing. So, it goes on, and I want to get a few other things in here before we head off, because I know we have to be mindful of that. CadyJax is going to be doing a podcast in a little bit, and we have to be off the iPad by the time that starts rolling. So I wanted to tell the story of the last hexagon. As I was working, this is the last one. This is 444 in my little pen scratchy writing down there in the corner. Yes. As I was kind of trying to get this done, and I had 14 sandwiches, the quilt sandwiches, and I had 30 some of them waiting to just sew down the binding. I brought that all downstairs, and I said to Lili, I think I can get this done tonight, or at least I can get the bindings sewn down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was so excited when I got the bindings done, and I said, well, there should be 14 sandwiches there. And so she's so sweet. She goes over, because they're a little bit klutzier, and she starts to count them, and she said, there's only 13.
Yeah.
This was not what I wanted to hear before going to bed, because that meant that I was missing a hexagon, meant I either had miscounted from 306 on someplace in there, or I just counted wrong to begin with. But I had counted them so many times along the way, and it was important to me to have that confidence and goodwill in the pathway, the spiritual pathway of the 444, so it meant something. But anyway, I decided not to lose sleep over it, that I would figure it out, and if it was in there.
We go to bed late.
Yeah, it was late. It was like 12. But Lili had wanted, when she came up, and usually I have a twin bed over here, and I had, for this project, the last couple of months, I've had just mounds of fabric on the bed, and she'd come over and go, oh, I love this fabric, and then I would take that cue and I'd make a couple Hexies using that.
I was just admiring her.
Yeah, no, I know, but this particular fabric here has 2 different stories to it. The hexagon that's on it being number 444, is one that this quilter used. She must have had more of these than any other hexagon. So, I mean, it was like not proportion. I mean, I can't even remember how many there were, but there were at least 12 to 15. And most of them only had like 3, 5, 6 at the most. I have one that's just a single, but she was using her scraps. So she must have had a big piece of this. So there were a lot of them. And it's pink and green. It's a little hard to match in there. Well, I had thrown, this is a really cool vintage fabric that I had gotten from, it's like a peak experience from me. So I'm telling Lili the story about that, you know, that.
I don't think I've heard it before.
Well, this fabric was gotten when Jackie was just a little girl, so it was in the 70s, and she and I walked quite a distance. There was an estate sale, and she and I walked, I think she was probably 7, 8, something like that. And she had her nightie on, and we just walked to this estate sale because I wanted to be there when it opened. You know, they were, you know, telling us that there was going to be fabric on the bolts from the 30s and 40s, and there was, you know, all this stuff that you know, that is like the dream of you know, especially a quilter starting out. Well, we did arrive. The basement was astounding. It was the estate of a very creative woman who I guess had made hats or something. So she had a business doing that, but her basement was full of bolts of fabric from probably the 40s, 50s, that kind of thing. You know, they were in bolts. They were the reason I haven't looked this up, but whenever fabric changed from being 36 inches wide to being 45, it was all the 36-inch wide bolts. And you could just bring it up to the counter and they'd give you a few yards of this. I bought yards and yards and yards. And I remember we're walking, and Jackie was this sweet little girl that loved going to estate sales and finding little trinkets and goodies. And, you know, she had so much fun. So she's finding lots of things. And I don't even remember what else we got, but I just know that I had yards and yards and yards of this really, you know, this fabric. I have it, I mean, I've been using it as backs of quilts. You know, it's just really connected to our mother-daughter adventure. And so when Lili said that she wanted something out of this, she thought that would be a good backing. I put that in my mind and I intended to do it. I mean, I used it on, this is number 441. I used it for the binding on this pretty back. I mean, how cute is that?
And I'm pretty sure I saw this and I just...
yeah.
Just like thinking out loud, and I said, that would go really pretty with those green and pink ones you have left over.
Right.
As a background.
Yeah. And that's a Liberty of London. It's a really cute little
This
print.
one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I made that. And then we have this missing hexagon, remember? And I got to the end and Lili said something about, what did you use that fabric? And I said, ooh, I didn't. I forgot.
Like, oh,
you know, I meant to, but I was so engrossed with, you know, there's so many choices to pick. It is a design thing constantly with this, you know, picking them out and finding something that I hadn't used before. So I intended to do it. But the good ending to this was when I was looking through, I went through the sandwiches and I thought, it's got to be there. I know that hexagon is there. And it was there tucked in on the, you know, the underside of another, like probably, you know, like on the sandwich. It was on the, like I had taken it, flipped it over somehow, and it was hiding in the sandwich of another quilt block that I might not have even noticed if I hadn't been searching for it. So then the long and the short of it is she gets this pretty pink and green hexagon placed on that fabric that she wanted, and then this goes into her stack as well as this one that she has, because she has a special little stack that I told her to pull out before we even got started on making quilts. So she has those, and number 444 goes to Lili.
Not that I needed it, but I think you had said you just think it's nice to have 444 around.
I
As a
do.
memory of the.
It is, and it will always mean something to us because we designed it together.
Yeah.
And we found it. We went through the, oh my goodness, where's that last
And it's
Hexie?
a happy ending.
Yes, it is. So we did that, and then the other, I don't know how people talk for 2 hours, but some podcasts they talk for 2 hours. That would be,
Mm-hmm.
I think we could probably put a quarter in me because I haven't even started. I have, I made sure I wanted to talk about the little treasure that I found at the end of this. And then I also don't let me turn off the camera before I show you some of the new quilts I put in the shop because they're really so much, they're just so pretty in person.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so there was in this, as I stated in my Instagram story, get me back in here. The good book that you're reading, you want to find an epilogue, and I think they're coming in here, but we'll try to talk softly. Why don't you close the door, and then they'll know we're busy. Anyway, you look for an epilogue in the end, like Harry Potter had one, and, you're just so delighted when you find there's going to be a little bit more about those characters.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more of the story. Well, I had, in the end of that, in that plastic bag of hexagons, there was a little pile of fabrics. Just a little, I don't know how to put it, just a little pile of these fabrics.
Several different shapes.
And I decided yesterday or the day before that to pull that out and see what they were. And there had been this little copper, this is a copper template for a smaller.
Which you can tell the size difference.
Yeah, it's smaller than that one. And I wondered what that was. Well, then I found several of these just adorable little tiny hexagons. I'm trying to find the hexagons. And you know what I want to do with those. Anyway, and then all kinds of these there's about a dozen of these little 2-inch squares.
And the sweet thing is they're different fabrics from the first hexagon.
They are. There's one thing in here, I can't remember where. Oh, here it is. Like a few old friends show up. Like this is one that comes from the hexagons. And there's a square of it.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's this little diamond shape that's one of the hexagons. Just that little, so she was going to make another quilt. Or what I wonder is, are these leftovers from quilts she's already made?
Probably, since there are only a few of them.
Or did she start cutting these out of the scraps when she was making the hexagons?
Oh.
Did she cut out these shapes too, thinking, oh, I'll make a little quilt with these smaller hexagons? Because I think I have I gave it to my friend, but I had a quilt that was made with hexagons this small from those, the 30s. But anyway, so there it is. You'll hear more from me about what I do with these. But these fabrics will all get used, every little scrap of it. So our quilter will have that.
Into something special. I'm going to pause.
Has nothing to do with this project. So anyway, we have, I'm going to be doing a giveaway also.
Yes.
That was the other thing that I wanted to do because I want to be able to share the joy and just the sheer love of this project. So many people have gone to the Etsy shop and gotten quilts, and the reviews have been so lovely, and it just feels like there's so much good feeling going out there. And I thought I want to be able to extend that. I had several milestones happen to me, one of which was going over 1,000 what do you call them?
She broke 1,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, it's up to 130 or something like that,
and
just
really quickly.
Yeah, it was
really quickly.
It was very exciting, and so that made a dent in my grandson's appreciation of what I was doing. Like, wow, Grandma, Joe, yeah, he thought that was cool. So, yes. So anyway, so you get some cred for that, and I want to be able to give back for that thing. And then also the other thing I'm most grateful for is how all the, I could make all these Hexies, but you're understanding that it's not only making them, but it's getting out into the world. That is part of the mission of this, to make her quilt and my work behind it go out in a shared, joyful gratitude to what we have made it through. That's what it is. And so I was thinking about, I've never done a giveaway before, and I'm not quite sure how to do them. I'm going to give them to you. I'm going to, at this juncture, what I'm planning to do, and there may be more coming later, but right now, I'm going to put up in my Instagram feed, and that's Sally Jerney Quilts. I mean, I would assume the people that are on YouTube know how to find me on Instagram. And what I want is I'm going to have 2 winners. I will describe this on my Instagram feed, so you don't have to worry about it. But there's going to be 2 winners, and I want you, if you win, I want you to pick a friend that you would like me to send a Hexie quilt to also. So you not only win one for yourself, but you win one for a good friend or family member, or mother on Mother's Day, whatever. But there are, I'm not sure how we'll choose them, but I think they'll find the right homes. So that's the giveaway quilts. Mm-hmm. And then the other quick thing I wanted to do, because this is a thank you. I wanted to, this is like, knitters are always talking about their acquisitions, or their, they always show us their yarn and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I needed to replenish a little bit of my goodies in my, I really didn't, but you have to have an excuse for buying fabric sometimes. But Jackie, when she was out visiting Debbie, and if you watch CadyJax, you'll watch that episode because it is so fun. Those two are quite a pair. It was delightful, and they were in, what is the name of the store, Lili? Because I called it Brooklyn
Trading Company?
Yeah, I think so. And Jackie brought home this beautiful fabric. I mean, and then she also brought me a dish. There's one of these, it's not supposed to be on here, but a dish of gorgeous buttons.
I might just let them fall into my hand.
Yeah, I mean, that's always like souvenirs for me are buttons and fabric. And my daughters are so sweet when they go on trips. They quite often, if they can, they'll find. I mean, they've got trees
have, and flowers on them.
They're beautiful, beautiful.
Oh my goodness!
Just love it. And then most of you are quite familiar with Purl Soho because of their beautiful linen quill. And we have talked about linen quill. I feel like we, have the market on linen quill practically the way we have.
The association.
But I think it's only a drop in the bucket. But at least, if you think of all the people that have done their, CadyJax.
Half and half. Half wrap cow.
Yes. Well, what I did for myself before Jackie had come home from New York, I felt a little guilty. I'd gone on Purl Soho because they were one of my favorite places to buy fabric. They have all natural fabrics. It's not a broad fabric spectrum. It's just beautiful. They have Liberty of London, a great selection of Liberty of London, which, I am just absolutely in love with. This is just a cute gray with sailboats on it. It's very appropriate for me with my Lake Wingler close to us and my grandson's working at the lake, and Lili in her kayak, and and then this one is a beautiful Liberty of London, which is, I forget the name of the actual pattern, but it's like a city square, cityscape, something like that.
Yeah.
And then these are just a variety of those gorgeous, they're not that expensive, these are gorgeous, just 100% cotton. I think they're called Spectrum, but they just have these gorgeous, the colors are not exactly true, close.
Yeah.
But anyway,
they're a little bit richer.
Yeah, they're just those are just, I tend to love plain, fabric that's got this honest feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
I love solids.
I think I should show them the whole stack once more.
Yes. Then I have one more that
Okay.
This was a treat. I go on Etsy, and Etsy is like, it's like candy shopping. It really is. I just put in fabric, cotton fabric, Japanese fabric, vintage fabric, whatever. And I don't buy stuff very often, but honestly, it's just been, I have really worked hard since December 1st when I started this. I mean, I laugh about it. I have enjoyed it, but this has been like, I really have worked hard. I mean, I've been like a
4
full-time
months.
employee. Yeah, of just working. So I needed a little bit of a fabric. This is a yukata, I think is how they say that. It's a Japanese, this is what I think is made for things like the summer kimono. It's like a flower that looks like a rose to me. It could be a few other kinds of flowers, but in our house it's a rose, because a rose by any other name is a rose. And it's just beautiful. It's kind of a green on white. It is in perfect condition. There was more, but I got it, so there isn't any to share. It's from Circa Fabrics.
On Etsy?
On Etsy. Circa Fabrics, I think. They have she's got a gorgeous shop. It came like a little present with a, gorgeous little wrapping ribbon and all that. So yeah, no, that was a new, like, ooh, I don't need to know about that, do I? So.
And I saw it and I thought, this looks like an inspiration for a shoulder tattoo or something.
Yeah, you took a picture of that thinking, ooh, I like that.
I want
yeah.
to sketch something like that.
It is gorgeous, yeah, because we have, yeah.
Mm.
So I don't know. I mean, recently I got a nice little stash of vintage buttons from another shop. So I highly recommend, if you want to just go for a playful outing. Most quilters know about it, but if you don't, it's just fun. I mean, support their little local businesses. They're not, they're small. They can really use the sales, and it's like.
And it brightens them as much as it does when you hear a ka-ching.
Right,
in your shop.
It does. Yeah, and I know you found some gorgeous earrings, and
I did some rings.
Yeah, so it's fun.
There are enamel pins.
But I want to spend one little bit of time talking about the quilts that I have just put in. That they are live. They're in the shop right now. I've been, everybody does this differently. What I do, I update the shop, and I just publish as I'm doing it, because, well, Lili, oh my God, you helped me so much on how to do the actual Etsy entering.
From your phone.
From my phone, so I can sit on my phone with quilts on my lap, and
rather than at the big computer.
Yeah, the big computer, which is slow, and it's
I think it starts with you've got all your pictures on your phone.
Right.
So it's more convenient and efficient to do it from your phone.
Oh, right. And plus, it's very intimate. I'm right there. I can sit on the sofa, and I can put, I've gone through because the step, and I so apologize. I cannot remember the woman's name. Maybe she doesn't care, but I will try to remember to put it when I'm doing my notes again. The woman who said to me, well, what, have you ever thought of using safety pins? Because that was another breakthrough on these quilts, was how to put them together. And she said she saw something where I think it was at a Vogue Knitting or something like that, where there was an installation with safety pins holding things together. And quilters' pins are just they're so pretty in and of themselves. So anyway, I just wanted to show a shape that I love.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 4-block shape, and this is probably, I have to make a confession.
Okay.
This is so cute. We watched the last series, season of Schitt's Creek last night. Jamie and Lili and I have been watching that. And it's taken a long time because we live with a student who has to do work at night, and so, it's taken a while. But we got to this one, and I'm only going to give one part away. It's not a spoiler.
So it's not a spoiler?
No, it's not a spoiler.
Okay.
Lexi, if you watch the show, you'll know her character. And Alexis. I'm not. Thank you. I'm not going to explain it, but she was giving a couple bags of her beautiful clothes to a friend, and was, gave them to the friend, and then she's like, the friend brought out this dress and she put it up and she said, "Oh, I love this one." And she said, "Oh, I didn't mean for that one to get in there." And she put it in her bag. And you'd have to know the character to understand how cute that is. But I've been laughing with myself because this particular block, like when I make these, when I make them to put in the shop, I oftentimes, most of the time I'm making them, I could put them on the walls in my house, and I'm going like, I love this one so much. I have, I love this. This is a beautiful Japanese fabric I've had forever. This black and it's just such a gorgeous one. And I love the reds and pinks and the colors were just so. When I put that one together, I'm going like, But I want it to be out. I don't need to have every Hexie combination, because if I saved all the Hexie combinations that I loved, I wouldn't be giving many of them away, would I? Yes.
True.
Yes, right. So anyway, I'm just we'll just quickly show.
And I'll show the back as well.
Yeah. The backs are very fun. I've often thought about, I have a friend of mine who sometimes, I gave her a quilt a long time ago, and I'm a quilter that the backs are important to me. The backs of all my quilts have story. They have fabric that I love. Lili's has some leftovers from the mass material. They all have some reason. They're not just a plain piece of fabric for the most part. And so when I was making these and I started pinning them together, I was thinking, well, this friend of mine, what she does with my quilt is that I'll go into her house and sometimes it's backward. She's got it inside out, or the back front. Mm-hmm. And it's so pretty, and I'm kind of going like, well, where did you get that? And then I look at it and I go like, oh, that's my quilt that I made for you, but you're just hanging it that way. And it's a bold modern quilt like that. The one I have on my bed, same thing. It's bolder. You can do simpler shapes. So the backs are important. Excuse me. So anyway, these with their safety pins and everything, because you see how and this is another one of those fabrics that Jackie and I got from that lady way back when. And that's from a antique shop in Mount Horeb. We got yards and yards of that. So well, I'm going to have to stop because I can't talk.
And this one's from Jerney. From Door County. Yeah,
when she went up to Door County last summer for a just quick fly through, just to go like, I got to Door County. Yeah. She stops at I think it's called the Barn Door Quilt in Sturgeon Bay. And she brought back a delicious stack of fabrics for me, which a lot of them are in the mass.
Yeah, I want to amend something I said. I do remember you telling me the story of the estate sale that you walked to with Jackie. Mm-hmm. I think you told me before bed, like I walked into your room.
Right.
And it was like 12:30, so I probably forgot.
Yes. And then this is another one. So I'm showing you these because the fours are kind of got a unique, they hang nicely on the wall. It's just a different shape. I mean, I love the 3s and the 5s, and I have many. We're going to have to probably, but I just want you to have a chance to see them because they show up better here than they do in the shop.
I think we've got at most like 10 minutes.
Okay, so we'll just do this quickly, and then I'll show you. I'm not even going to show you them individually. I'm going to show you, just give you kind of a teaser of what, you can just kind of flip through those a little bit. There's lots of different colors. In other words, the quilts from 306 to 444 still have a lot of spunk to them, a lot of, gorgeous color. They're just, they're beautiful. And there's quite a few with the really cool novelty prints in here.
Janie and I, one of the things we keep saying is just how well you pair bindings to them. Like you choose such unique ones that go so well. It's an eye I think you have for it.
Well, thank you. And and that's what takes so long too, because I'm it's been fun. I think I've told you since Lili has moved in, I have all my fabrics in. It's a long story on why this is, but it was shuffling. And I have all my fabrics in my bedroom, and when I wake up, I have my fabrics there, and they're in bins. And when I go through the bins, as I've been doing, I keep finding a strip of binding from another quilt, and then I use them on here when they're appropriate. So it's not like I've cut all new fabric, and my bindings are always, this is another quilter's technique, I do a 2 1/4 inch strip, and then that's what I use for bindings.
Yeah, that's your trick.
That's my trick. I like it. I like the edging. And I keep being asked to do a how-to, and I realize I'm not going to do that today, but sometime.
I'd show them through the stack.
Yeah, so those are in the shop now. When you listen to me, you can go. And then I put, because what's been so sweet is the people that have bought just singles, that they've, I don't know if you want to just do this one. It's so sweet. One woman bought one that reminded her of a vacation to Hawaii when she was younger.
Oh.
And it's just sweet. And another woman loved the binding that I had chosen. And so it's a way of sharing in this community of makers, and because that's who we are. We're makers. We get by these pandemics and these tough times by making, and you'll have this, I could see these little squares just being next to your, like Jackie talks about, your little altars that people have, or your very special things that you keep, and then having this as a reminder, I'm part of this community.
Like this.
Yeah. You have
Very
some
special
buttons
little
on them.
things or something.
So I put a few more of those in there. I can do more. You can always DM me if you have, like I said, I have these behind me. I think I'm going to do an installation with all of them. I have a few wedding gifts and baby gifts on the way to people, and things that it's so fun. I don't have to think about what am I going to give people. I just go and make them a Hexie quilt, because most people, want that part of community. And so we have, it's off camera. Jamie just installed a beautiful rack for me with all these pegs on it, and I hang my shop from there. So the shop of hexagram quilts is right there when I'm sewing. I look at it and it's just so colorful. I just wish I could share all of that with everybody. But we have the surprise of Lili, because I'm so excited. I didn't think you'd be feeling good. Can you tell people why you might not be feeling good?
Sure. So yesterday I got my second vaccine, and I was glad to have it over the weekend so that it wouldn't affect my work week. But today I'm like 24 plus hours out, and I don't really feel that different. I feel like maybe slightly foggy lungs, maybe a little bit of a headache, but overall I feel pretty normal.
That's good. That's good.
And I'm just hanging out today, watching my lectures, sitting here admiring this colorful corner with you.
Oh, that's the thing behind us that we haven't shared. Yeah.
That's
Do you see what behind Lili's head is? And I can't take it down because it's just taped up there with masking tape. That is coming along the next project. But that is the strips that we had in the basket, the leftovers, the waste from making these squares. I started one of those in I think it was while I was waiting for the binding. I started that, and they're absolutely gorgeous. I can just see lots and lots and lots of that kind of quilt where it's just the strips, and then the kind of things I do is then the strips get cut up and stuff. But I don't know if you want to turn your head just a little bit. I just started making the long strips, and I got 5 of them and sewed them together, and because of the way the fabric gets cut off the squares when I'm truing them up, they're uneven, and so they look like a stratosphere.
I love that about it.
Yeah, it looks like you're looking at like a rock slide or a rock surface or something. So
Yeah.
anyway, if you're worried about that, what will she do after she's done with hexagons?
Oh, she's got plans.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, people, I love all of you. I'm glad it's spring. I know that we're not done with this, but we're at least get our vaccinations, and let's keep on keeping on, keep those precautions. Let's keep listening to the people that know what they're talking about. Listen to the science, and let's get on. We still got lots of problems to solve. Right? There's no question about that. But anyway, we love you, and I'll probably see you. I don't know if Lily's going to just go up and listen to another one of those lectures, or
Probably. I have art history to learn about.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming. It was
Oh,
fun
yeah,
having
fun
you
with
here.
you. Yeah,
I
you're
love
one
this.
of my best friends.
Oh, okay. Anyway, love. Bye, everybody.
Bye.